I also, I'm looking at the chat as well. We have, there's a discussion about the role of 3D printing, which is also, which is interesting. This is Olufuntu Borofis. You posted this here. I was wondering if you'd like to take the microphone and comment.
I'm sure. Thank you for Dr. Patrick for that. I was just, I think I do have, and maybe just my own personal view, but I do have some concerns around the not just acceptability of products from 3D printing, but even just the costing around that is attached to it, and how do you then prevent knockoffs from China? In such a way where people can afford it. Those are the things that I, in my mind, I'm thinking about as I made those points, because I feel like there's going to be a huge, especially in a country like, or continent like Africa, where energy is not cheap. How do you then justify the cost of whatever is produced, right? If it can't be produced en masse, and then how do you then also prevent those products not becoming knockoffs? I mean, those are just some of the things that was going on in my brain when I wrote that down. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this. These are, some issues definitely we need to think through. So there have been some replies on this. I think this discussion will also continue in terms of innovation, which are the right technologies. So that's something really to look at. I was wondering, Ambassador, if I could ask you a question, because now 2021 is often talked about as a mega year for the environment. So we have the Biodiversity Summit coming up, originally planned for May, but now postponed to October, and then followed by the COP, the Conference on Climate Change, to take place in Glasgow in late November. What are your expectations for these events? How are you and Nigeria engaging at the moment?
Well, I think first let me say that generally, as far as, because Nigeria is concerned, we're fully there as far as the environment issues is concerned. A lot of awareness is coming, and I'm saying this against the background of my own experience. Like I said, it was the cocoa waste that pushed Nigeria into it. I was serving in the permanent mission of Nigeria to the UN when the cocoa waste was dumped in cocoa. The environment department, as far as our institution was concerned, was in a small little corner of Ministry of Works and Housing. So it was the cocoa waste that now led us to establish FEPA, Federal Environment Protection Agency. And then when we went to Rio, because it was part of the negotiations as far as Rio was concerned, and then we came back from Rio, we now have the Federal Ministry of Environment. So step by step, we've been onto it. And of course, we eventually, of course, moved in also as far as part of CITEM, for example, the strategic approach to international chemicals management. So steadily it is on, and we're looking forward to what we can get as far as some of these conferences. But like I said, as somebody who not only was involved in the theoretical perspective, because my master's thesis was on international environmental law, as a diplomat in Nairobi, who also served to get most of these, implemented at a level, it's always the issue. But I think Nigeria will continue to work on it. I serve, for example, as the vice president of FAITH. FAITH stands for Fight Against a large number of our countries. And what we've done in that particular area is to demonstrate the fact that it is possible for you to do these things. Right? And that's why we're looking forward to what exactly is happening. But the challenge is always the question of one. And I think we need to develop a core of officers, a core of professional environment officers in our, not only in Nigeria, in Africa. Since I served in Nairobi in Kenya, we see delegations that for the UNIA. I work with delegation when it was used to be the UN Government Council. And they're always saying that, look, you people, we're still hungry. You're telling us to. So each time, and I can give the practical example of the Federal Ministry of Environment. I have colleagues who have retired from the ministry. I work with them, the director of the climate change unit. I work with the person who was in air pollution. I also work with the person who was in terms of the chemicals. I work with somebody who was talking about the Minamata Convention. A lot of them have retired. Who are the people who are replacing them? Because that is one area that is key. Our national institution will still continue to be very relevant. We need to raise a core of officers, a core of professionals who will be taken care of, who will also, of course, be SICEM, for example, which I work on, the strategic approach to international chemicals. I have an officer who is now in Geneva, who is on that place, who went from that. But unfortunately, the moment she left, how many people do we have in the ministry as far as the environment? So it is an area which we have to look at. So when we go to Glasgow, and when we come back from Glasgow, the national institution that will deal with this issue, who are going to mandate it? We will continue to work as an optimist, about this issue is concerned. The opportunity I have now as the Director General of the Nigerian Chambers of Commerce, Industry Master, also gives us the opportunity to be able to bring in our Chambers of Commerce, to be able to work with the private sector too as well, because we need to get most of them to recognize and buy into this. So the buy-in is one of the most important things. At 66, I'm also planning to very soon also maybe retire, looking at 70 very soon, so that I can play with my grandchildren. But we need people who will take over from us to continue what exactly the international environment, of course, will work on and hand over to respective countries to implement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those insights. You definitely don't look your age, but spending more time with your grandchildren is definitely more enjoyable than dealing with lots of multilateral issues. I was wondering if Sunday, if you would like to share some more insights on how UNEP is engaging in the upcoming international events on environment, and how do you see the circular economy within those larger discussions?
Thank you, Patrick. Well, first thing is to say that I'm far away from UNEP headquarters, even though I'm a UNEP staff, but my work focus more on the Global Environment Facility. So I will be able to speak more on what the Jeff and the staff team is doing in preparation for this event. But I think one important thing from the perspective of UNEP that UNEP has been engaging is the latest Making Peace with Nature report that was produced by UNEP. Basically, it was a synthesis of all the different assessments, the IPCC, the 1.5 report, the Global Chemical Outlook, the Global Biodiversity Outlook. All of these assessment reports, they brought in leading experts, including Bob Watson and others, to synthesize the knowledge that has been gleaned from those assessments and provide information on what we need to do in terms of climate change, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of chemical pollution. And this has been well received by many, and that's one of the main inputs that UNEP will be providing to many of these discussions, as well as, of course, the annual emissions gap reports, which UNEP always produces to give us an assessment of the gap between the commitments that has been made by countries in terms of policies, as well as what is needed to get to 1.5 or 2 degrees under the Paris Agreement. So those are the things that at least I can talk about at the global level for UNEP. But within the GEF, as you know, the GEF provides funds for many of these. So the GEF is the funding mechanism for the chemicals and waste. That's the Stockholm Convention and the Minamata Convention, as well as for the CBD in Montreal, and then the UNCCD. And the GEF at the moment is actually working on a new programming direction. The GEF is always replenished every 4 years, and the process for the eighth replenishment just started last week, and we've been able to contribute to the first draft of the programming direction. And one important point that, and which is quite exciting for me, especially in our role in providing advice to the GEF as a scientific team that advises the GEF, is how much circular economy is being reflected in the programming direction. I must say this is just a first draft. It's going to be discussed by the member countries and the funding countries among the agencies, and we don't know what will be the final contents will be. But at least in the first draft, there's significant commitments to using circular economy as a tool, as a cross-cutting tool in the implementation of the next GEF programming direction. And in fact, there is a plan for an impact program on plastics and circular economy in that programming direction, as well as other circular initiatives that will lead to climate change mitigation and so on. So those are part of the things, and our own role as staff is to continue to provide advice and engage with the scientific community to bring in the knowledge in the scientific community to help the GEF in planning its work program. And one of the things we always emphasize when we receive projects related to recycling or material use is to emphasize the need, because yes, a lot is being said, a lot is being done in this field, but we still get traditional projects. We still get projects that are just doing the business as usual thing, or just saying, okay, we'll apply life cycle assessment and so on, but we don't really see the core of circular economy in that. And that's why you recall in my presentation, I emphasize the fact that circular economy is not just recycling. It's not recycling 2.0. We need to really look at materials from the design stage to the end of life, as well as the business model that determines how they move within the economy. And those are the things that we are hoping that the GEF will invest more in the nearest future.
Can I make a brief remark?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. First, let me say that Dr. Sunday Leonard, it's nice to see you. I feel very delighted. Each time I see colleagues who Gigiri and UNEP, 4 years it was home for me as acting PAM rep to UNEP and UN Habitat. Work with very many of our colleagues, who are there, Akim Taina and all of us, and continuously. In my earlier discussion, when I intervened, I spoke about myself. Hamed Joglaf used to be the director of GEF unit within UNEP. Myself and Hamed Joglaf come a long way from New York. We were on the second committee in New York, and we work on the environment. So luckily, we found ourselves together again in Nairobi. So naturally, we bonded, and it was in GEF. And it was when we encouraged Nigeria to have this MOU with UNEP, GEF units. And then we now came home to be able to market it. And in terms of the first thing, a lot of people say, look, this GEF funding, I think, it's a little bit too complicated for us in terms of the processes itself. And because some of them have been at subnational level, who wanted to key into that place. had problems in terms of the Federal Ministry of Environment itself at that national level. I'm sharing these experiences because I remember very well the MOU was on 5 thematic areas: climate change, CBD, land degradation, I think desertification and one other. Those were the things. And Hamid Douglas, who was the director, said, look, Ayo, me and you owe ourselves this to be able to make a sense of this. So that if we get there, supporting maybe Anambra State or Imo State in terms of the area of land degradation, we will have said that, no, even they are there in DC, in Washington, this is the impact at this level. So that is one thing I think we need to look at in terms of your reference as far as the business model in context of how Jeff can come into this. Because honestly speaking, for a large number of colleagues now, I can't even remember Jeff again. Sekou, myself and Sekou used to be the regional director for Africa in UNEP. I think Sekou moved on to Jeff. I don't know where he is now. So now that you've mentioned it, please also take into consideration the past experiences in terms of the difficulties and problems and challenges. And now that we are going to this particular area, if we can have a few pilot cases in which we can prove, listen, circular economy. I mean, look at Lagos. In my own estate, there is an outfit now that is doing something in terms of waste to power energy. And then, so I just thought I should share my experiences as far as that issue is concerned in terms of Jeff at the Global Environment Facility itself, so that we can be presented as a credible partner as far as the circular economy itself and plastic management itself is concerned. I work closely with Lagos State. I can always, of course, in this particular area, because perhaps you can say Lagos is the one that is facing the blazing end of the AK-47 when it comes to the question of plastic management and the crisis as well. I just thought I should say that. And it's always nice to see you. I sincerely hope when COVID is finally defeated, we'll be back on the ground at Igiri. And thank God you've been able to do it. We used to have plastic for water in Igiri. I think years ago we figured that out. We now have bottles as part of dealing with those issues of plastic. Once again, thank you very much. I'm sorry for just for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. If I may just quickly respond in terms of pilot projects, as I said, the report I showed in my presentation, we produced that in 2018, and since then the GEF has been implementing projects on circular economy across its international waters and chemicals and waste focal area. And we actually have ongoing project by UNIDO in Ghana on circular economy, and some projects which has been approved on test site in South Africa, in Mauritius, and so on. So examples of projects are happening. The GEF is fully engaged and actually intend to engage more in the discussion on circular economy. As I said, it's a cross-cutting topic that within the GEF next programming direction. I cannot speak so much on the politics or the engagements between countries, but I understand the complications within the process in terms of assessing funds within the GEF and also within the country. So, for example, GEF deals with only 18 agencies. And the agencies deal with the federal government, maybe in the case of Nigeria. So it becomes more difficult if you have small or local or regional level organizations want to implement project or get involved. But I think this is more about the case of the country itself organizing itself to be able to bring in all the relevant stakeholders. And that's where the topic of stakeholder engagement comes in. Is very important because there are many stakeholders. The GEF has the small grant projects, which is just small money to help civil society to implement projects, but that's not enough to scale up. But if countries can organize themselves to give these stakeholders, the private sector and so on, access to be able to work with the federal government, then it's actually something that will be encouraging that will help to develop projects that will be holistic and that can help really embed circular economy strategy or environmental sustainability strategy into the government itself. And I think 2 points I will make, which I wanted to make even before you made this intervention on the GF, but based on your former intervention, is that one of the challenges we have, and this is something that we are still struggling with, is the fact that we work in silos. And we have known more and more now that most of the environmental problem we face, or all of the environmental problem we face, requires system thinking. It requires looking at how economy interact with social issues, with environmental issues. It needs talking to different stakeholders, the private sector and so on. And we need the system of governance to actually change from a silo approach to a system approach that integrates the different sectors of the society together. And this is one of the things that we can do to actually change the way we bring in the local level, the civil society, the private sector into how we design projects. We need to engage them more. We need to get them involved from the onset and not just bring them to a meeting and discuss and say we have engaged them. No, they need to be involved in the design, in the implementation. One other thing I think relevant for Nigeria and relevant to all countries, especially if we want to transition to circular economy and use circular economy as a leverage point to deliver sustainability, is for us to develop circular economy plan for our countries. I think every country needs to look at the economic sectors and then develop a plan of transitioning to a circular economy with specific targets and implementation strategies for achieving those targets. I think, that's good for plastic, but we need a whole country system design that will look at the impact, the negative effect, the positive effect, and then bring this together as a strategic plan. I believe even for countries, if you have such plans, it becomes much, much easier to access funding, not just the GEF funding, but other funding opportunities, the green climate funds, the bonds that are available in different places. It helps in actually designing or assessing the necessary funds that can help us for civil society, for individuals, for small scale businesses, and so on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, the issue of overcoming the silos is definitely a crucial one for the circular economy. As there's a question that came in about by Collins on reverse vending, which is I'm reading it out. Reverse vending is not so popular in Africa. What can be done to support recyclers to acquire and implement this innovation? I was wondering if Boson, if you might be able to answer to that. If you're still around.
I think he may have left the chat. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's actually that's quite a good question, because it also links to issues around take-back schemes and possibly deposits on plastic packaging or PET bottles, etc. And there's probably also a way of how policy could support these mechanisms, really to create reverse vending. And then again, it links also to our project. Digital technologies, I think, will be key here. And there are, from our network, already a number of companies who are beginning to use these.
Yeah, Patrick, if I may just add to that, I think for Africa, this is something that can be useful, but basically the barriers that I highlighted are part of the factors that, especially in terms of the society and cultural barriers, you need people to understand this thing. It's easy if I want to introduce reverse vending in the UK, for example. People already use vending machines to buy stuff. So they understand that this is just a revision or a reversal of my normal supply chain. I normally put money in and I get something out. Now I'm taking something in and then I might get something back, money back from it. But people need to be aware of that. This needs to be brought down to the level, and it might also mean modifying it. You can't just exactly transfer the reverse vending scheme that is happening in China to an African country, because the context is different, the culture is different. So we need to think about the culture, how people think in those areas. And then, of course, we also need to make sure that there's incentive for it. One of the examples of reverse vending in China is the fact that you slot in your bottle and you get a metro ticket. So how does that apply in Africa? What a metro ticket might not be relevant to someone in Africa or someone in Nigeria, but what will attract someone in Nigeria to be able to do that? I think that's example. But beyond that also is that we might not need exactly reverse vending in Africa because of the system. We might need something else. Similar idea. The overall idea is we are taking back the product or the waste material. That's what we need to think of. It might mean employing, using the informal sector to be able to do this, and so on. So I think it's possible, it's doable, but we must think of the context, we must think of the culture to be able to implement.
Yeah, absolutely. Transfer one-to-one from one place to the other is often not possible. Okay, thank you again, all the speakers in our session today. Very, very insightful for me and hopefully for everyone else. I'm sure we learned a lot of things. Let me hand back to Muyiwa for closing the conference and final remarks from his side.